Kiravas had no memory of her parents. She only knew they died when the Zethrani Empire burned her homeworld to ash. She was 7 years old when the human colony ship escaped with 300 survivors. Now, 18 years later, she was the last hope humanity had against complete extinction. The Zethrani had conquered 63 species across the galaxy. They collected worlds like trophies. They saw humans as nothing more than insects that had somehow escaped the fire. For years, they hunted the remaining human vessels. They destroyed 12 colony ships and 3 military carriers. Only the stealth frigate Prometheus remained, hidden in the dark spaces between stars where no sensor could reach. Captain Marcus Webb stood at the bridge console, his face showing the weight of responsibility. "The Council has made their decision," he said to the assembled crew. "We cannot hide forever. Our supplies will run out in 8 months. The Zethrani have placed sensor nets around every habitable world. We need someone to disable the net around Kepler 442b. It is our last chance for a new home." Everyone in the room understood what this meant. Someone would have to infiltrate the Zethrani command station alone. The station held 5,000 enemy soldiers and the most advanced security systems in the galaxy. No army could break through. No fleet could survive the orbital defenses. But one person, moving in shadows, might just have a chance. Kira stepped forward. "I will go." Webb looked at her with sad eyes. He had watched her grow from a frightened orphan into the deadliest operative humanity had ever produced. The Avatar program had taken her natural abilities and enhanced them beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Advanced visual tracking and response. It was not just a name. It was what she had become. Her neural implants processed information faster than any known species. Her modified muscles moved without sound. Her skin could shift color and texture to match any surface. "Kira," Webb said quietly, "this is likely a one-way mission." She smiled, but there was no joy in it. "Everything we do now is a one-way mission, Captain. The Zethrani think they burned us to nothing. They forgot that humans rise from ashes." The insertion pod dropped her into the atmosphere of the gas giant where the command station orbited. She fell through purple and orange clouds, her suit absorbing the toxic gases. The pod broke apart on schedule, making it look like space debris. She floated free, using small bursts of compressed gas to guide herself toward the station. The Zethrani had built their station like a spider in a web. Dozens of sensor arrays extended in every direction. Patrol ships circled constantly. Gun emplacements tracked any movement larger than a fist. They believed nothing could approach unseen. They did not know about human stubbornness. Kira spent 3 hours drifting through the patrol patterns. Her suit was cold, radiating no heat signature. Her movement was so slow that motion sensors ignored her as background drift. When a patrol ship passed within 50 meters, she pressed herself against a piece of floating rock and became invisible. Finally, she reached the outer hull. The station's skin was made of living metal, a Zethrani technology that healed any damage within minutes. She could not cut through it. Instead, she found a waste disposal port and waited. When the port opened to eject garbage, she slipped inside. The smell was terrible. The Zethrani were reptilian creatures with a diet that included rotting meat. Kira crawled through pipes filled with things she did not want to identify. Her avatar training had prepared her for discomfort. Physical suffering was temporary. Extinction was forever. She emerged in a maintenance tunnel and checked her internal map. The sensor control room was 12 levels above her. Between her and the target were checkpoints, patrol routes, and 3,000 soldiers who would kill her on sight. The Zethrani had learned to fear humans during the early wars. A single human marine had once held a bridge against 40 Zethrani warriors for 6 hours. Their reports spoke of humans as beings who refused to die, who fought with a madness that had no logic. When they heard the last human ships were destroyed, they celebrated for 3 standard days. They did not know that Kira was coming. She moved through the station like a ghost, Her skin shifted to match the dark metal walls. Her feet made no sound on the grated floors. When guards approached, she pressed herself into corners and became part of the shadows. Her breathing slowed to almost nothing. Her heartbeat dropped to 10 beats per minute. The Zithrani walked past her without a glance. On the 7th level, she encountered her first problem. A security checkpoint blocked the only path forward. 6 guards stood watch, and a scanner checked every being that passed. There was no way around it. Kira studied the situation for 20 minutes. She noticed that the guards changed shifts every 4 hours. During the change, there was a moment of confusion as new guards took their positions. She also noticed that the ventilation shaft above the checkpoint was exactly wide enough for her body. She climbed. The vent was dusty and full of filters that tried to grab her suit. She moved centimeter by centimeter, testing each section before putting her weight on it. One creak of metal would bring guards running. The Zithrani had excellent hearing, better than humans. But they had poor eyesight in darkness, and they could not track something that made no sound. Above the checkpoint, she waited for the shift change. When the moment of confusion came, she dropped through a ceiling panel directly onto the scanner and disabled it with a single pulse from her neural implant. Before anyone could react, she was already in the vent on the other side. An alarm began to sound 3 minutes later. They had found the disabled scanner, but they did not know where she had gone. The station went into lockdown, sealing sections and routing extra patrols everywhere. Kira watched from inside a wall panel as soldiers ran past, their weapons ready. "Find the intruder," a commander shouted in the Zithrani language. Kira understood every word. The Avatar program had included language implants for 18 species. "No human can hide from us," Kira smiled in the darkness. They still did not understand. Humans had spent their entire history hiding, from predators on the plains of ancient Earth, from each other in countless wars, from the cold of space as they reached for new worlds. Hiding was not weakness. Hiding was how prey became predator. She continued to climb toward her target, leaving no trace behind her. The Zithrani searched every room, every corridor, every storage closet. They did not think to look inside the walls themselves. Their minds could not imagine a creature patient enough to move through spaces so small and dark. Kira was that creature. She was the ash that remembered being fire. The sensor control room was on level 12 in the heart of the station. It was the most protected area on the entire structure. 20 guards stood at the entrance. Inside, 15 technicians monitored the sensor net that covered the entire star system. Commander Vexra, the station master, personally oversaw operations during the lockdown. Kira had reached level 11 through the ventilation system. Now she faced a new challenge. The vents above the control room were filled with security beams. Nothing could pass through without triggering an alert. She needed another path. She studied the station blueprints in her neural implant. The control room had 3 access points. The main door, heavily guarded. An emergency exit, sealed and monitored. And a cable conduit that carried power to the sensor arrays. The conduit was only 30 centimeters wide, filled with high-voltage lines that would kill anything that touched them. Kira looked at her suit's insulation rating. It was designed to handle extreme temperatures and mild electrical exposure. The power lines carried enough energy to light a small city. No sane person would try to crawl through them. She entered the conduit. The electricity hummed around her like angry insects. Her suit began to smoke where it pressed against cables. The heat was incredible. Her vision blurred as her implants struggled to compensate for the electromagnetic interference. Every centimeter forward was agony. But humans had crawled through worse. Through burning buildings, through collapsed mines, through the freezing vacuum of space with failing life support. Pain was just information. It could be ignored. She emerged in the control room ceiling, her suit blackened and damaged but still functional. Below her, the technicians worked at their consoles. Commander Vexra paced behind them, his tail twitching with annoyance. The lockdown had disrupted his carefully ordered routine. Still no sign of the intruder? He demanded. "Nothing, Commander," a technician replied. "Perhaps it was a malfunction? The scanner may have simply failed." "Scanners do not fail," Vexra hissed. "Something is on my station." "Find it." Kira waited. She needed the technicians to step away from the primary console. The sensor net controls were complex, and she would need at least 3 minutes of uninterrupted access to disable them without triggering a backup alert to the Zithrani homeworld. An hour passed, then 2. The lockdown continued, but the tension in the room began to fade. Guards were called away to search other sections. Technicians took breaks, one at a time, to use facilities and eat meals. Commander Vexra remained, but even he could not watch everything forever. When only 4 technicians remained, and Vexra had his back turned, Kira dropped from the ceiling. She landed on the first technician without a sound, pressing a nerve point that sent him unconscious instantly. Before the second could turn, she was on him. The third opened his mouth to scream, but her hand covered it faster than thought. The fourth reached for an alarm panel. Kira threw a small blade that pinned his hand to the wall before he could touch it. Vexra turned at the soft thump of the blade. His eyes went wide as he saw the human standing among his fallen technicians. He reached for his weapon. "Done," Kira said in perfect Zithrani. He froze, not from fear, but from shock. No human had ever spoken his language so clearly. No human had ever stood before a Zithrani commander without an army behind them. "You cannot win," Vexra said. "Even if you kill me, even if you destroy this station, the Empire will find your people. We have ships in every sector, sensors on every planet. You are already dead, human. You simply do not know it yet." Kira began working at the console. Her fingers moved across controls designed for clawed hands, adapting instantly. "You hunted us for 18 years, she said. "You burned 12 ships, killed 40,000 people, men, women, children. You thought you were hunting animals." The sensor net began to flicker on the screens. Sections went dark, one by one. "What are you doing?" Vexra demanded, fear finally entering his voice. "You made a mistake," Kira continued. "You left survivors. You gave us time to learn, to adapt, to become something new." She looked at him with eyes that held no hatred, only cold purpose. "Every trap you set, we studied. Every weapon you used, we countered. Every time you burned us, we rose from the ashes stronger than before." The sensor net collapsed completely. The screen showed nothing but darkness, where once a web of detection had covered the entire system. Vexra lunged at her with his claws extended. She stepped aside easily and struck him once in the throat. He collapsed, gasping for air but still alive. "Tell your Empire," she said. "Tell them we are coming, not as prey, not as refugees. We are coming as what you made us. You wanted to create monsters to fear. You succeeded." She triggered the emergency beacon in her suit. The Prometheus received her signal from its hiding place behind the system's largest moon. Captain Webb gave the order, and the ship began its approach to Kepler 442b. The planet would be their new home. The first home humanity had known in 18 years. Kira did not try to escape. There was no need. The station was in chaos as officers tried to understand how their entire sensor net had vanished. By the time they organized a response, the human ships would be on the surface, burrowing deep, building defenses that would take the entire Zithrani fleet to overcome. She waited in the control room, watching the screens that showed nothing. Guards would come soon. They might kill her. They might capture her. It did not matter. She had completed her mission. 300 humans would survive. They would grow, multiply, and remember. The door burst open. 12 guards rushed in with weapons raised. Kira raised her hand slowly. "Commander Vexra is alive," she said calmly. "Your sensor net is destroyed. And right now, a human colony ship is landing on a world you can no longer see. The guards looked at each other in confusion. One of them checked Vexra, confirming he was breathing. Another examined the console, his face showing growing horror as he understood what had happened. "Shoot her," the lead guard ordered. Kira closed her eyes. She had expected this. She had made peace with it before she ever entered the insertion pod. But the shot never came. Instead, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A new alert, different from the lockdown. The guards rushed to check the screens. "Ships," one shouted. "Human ships." "3 of them, no 5. Kira smiled. Webb had done it. He had called in the hidden reserves. The ships that humanity had scattered across empty space, waiting for this moment. The Zithrani thought they had destroyed everything, but humans were masters of hiding their strength. The guards forgot about Kira as chaos erupted. She slipped away in the confusion, moving through corridors filled with panicking soldiers. She found an escape pod bay and climbed inside one of the small vessels. It launched automatically, carrying her away from the station. Through the small window, she watched as human ships appeared from behind moons and asteroids where they had waited for years. 5 ships became 12. 12 became 20. The Zithrani had underestimated how many had survived, how many had hidden, how patiently they had prepared. The Prometheus picked her up 3 hours later. Captain Webb met her at the airlock, his eyes wet with tears. "We thought you were dead," he said. "Humans are hard to kill," she replied. The Zithrani are learning that now. On Kepler 442b, the first shelters were already being built. Children played in the red grass, while adults worked to establish farms and defenses. For the first time in 18 years, humans slept under a sky without fear. Kira watched from the observation deck of the Prometheus. The planet was beautiful, with green oceans and purple mountains. It looked nothing like the Earth she had seen only in historical records. But it was home now, a new beginning. The war was not over. The Zithrani Empire would return with more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. But they would find humans ready. Humans who had learned to hide and wait and strike from shadows. Humans who had risen from the ashes of 100 burned worlds. Kira touched the window with her palm. Somewhere down there, orphan children were being taught to fight, to hide, to survive. They would become the next generation of Avatar operatives. They would carry the memory of what was lost and the hope of what could be built. The Zithrani had thought they were exterminating pests. Instead, they had forged something new. Something that would never stop fighting. Something that would spread across the galaxy like fire, unstoppable and eternal. Humanity had risen from ashes before. They would rise again as many times as necessary. Because that was what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They overcame. And they never, ever forgot.